Alright, y'all, welcome. We're talking about autism right now. We're talking about my type of autism. Well, all autism. So, what we really hate saying is, what we really hate hearing is, you can't have autism because this one guy I know has autism and he doesn't act anything like you. We can't act like each other because autism is a spectrum. It's different from everything. But okay. But yeah. So, yeah, but there's Kanner syndrome, uh, Asperger's in childhood, I don't know. But yeah, autism or autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by repetitive, restricted, and inflexible patterns of behavior, interests, and activities, and persistent defects in social communication and interaction. That's why I'm so weird and just don't talk a lot. Autism generally affects a person's ability to understand and connect with others, as well as their adaptability to everyday situations, with its severity and its support needs varying widely across the underlying spectrum. For example, some are nonverbal while others have proficient spoken language. A formal diagnosis of ASD, according to either the DSM-5 or the ICD-11 criteria, requires not merely the presence of ASD symptoms, but symptoms that cause significant impairment in multiple domains of function in addition to being atypical or excessive for the individual's age or social culture context. Common signs of ASD include difficulty with social interactions and verbal and nonverbal communications, along with perseverative interests, stereotypic body movements, rigid routines, and hyperreactivities to sensory input. What I'm reading this off of Wikipedia. It's not gonna be correct. That's not correct. It's a spectrum. It's not all gonna be the same. It's some is like that. Not all of them are like that. There's different types. That's why I'm not the same as other people with autism. Some people are really hyper-focused. Some people are not. I'm not hyper-focused. I have ADHD and autism. With that being said, I also have OCD. But I don't have good OCD. It's just there and it messes me because my ADHD and OCD cancels out each other. But my ADHD overpowers that. I have OCD, but with little things, and not that, because that is a basket of clothes. And that's why I hate change. The World Health Organization, or WHO, UK National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE, or NICE, and American Psychological Association classify autism as a neurodevelopmental disorder, but the autism rights movement and some researchers see autistic people as part of humanity's natural neurodiversity. From this point of view, autistic people may also be diagnosed with a disability of some sort, but the disability may be rooted in the systematic structures of a society rather than in the persons. Thus, proponents argue that autistic people should be accommodated rather than cured. On the contrary, of scientists argue that ASD impairs function in many ways that are inherent to the disorder itself and unrelated to society. The neurodiversity perspective has led to significant controversy among those who are autistic and advocates, practitioners, and cheerleaders. There are many theories about the causes of autism. It is highly heritable and mainly inheritable and mainly genetic. But many genes are involved and environment factors may also be relevant. See that right there. Genetic and heritable. My family has never had autism. I am a mutation. My autism is a mutation in our genes. We've never had autism. I don't think there was a single person in my family who had autism. except for my mom's side of the family, but that was for my mom's. No, my mom's mom. No, my mom's dad's. But yeah, that it was only thing by marriage because my grandfather got remarried, and then she had another different kid. And no, it was my mom's. Yeah, but that's it. They're not blood related or anything. They're not genetically related to us. So, yeah, but okay. See, let's keep going. Autism frequently co-occurs with the attention deficit hyperactive disorder (ADHD). Like I said, I have them both. Epilepsy and inter- intellectual disability, and researchers indicate that autism have significantly higher rates of higher rates of LGBTQ plus identities in Finns than the general population. Disagreements persist about what should be included as part of the diagnosis, whether there are meaningful subtypes of stages of autism, and the significance of autism-associated traits in the wider population. The combination of broader criteria increase awareness and the population potential increase of actual prevalence has led to considerably increased estimates of autism prevalence since the 1990s. The WHO estimates about 1 in 100 children had autism between 2012 and 2021, as that was the average estimate in studies during that period, with a trend of increasing prevalence, and over time, this increase in prevalence that reinforced the myth populated by anti-vaccine activists that autism is caused by vaccines. Boys are also significantly far more frequently diagnosed than girls. There is no that LGBTQ stuff was not true. It's not true. It's Wikipedia again. Not true. Don't know where they got their sources from. But okay, moving on. There is no cure for autism. Some advocates of autistic people argue that efforts to find a cure are misjudged and even harmful. Early intervention services based on applied behavior analysis (ABA) aim to teach children self-care and normalize social and language skills. ABA, no one from the ABA have ever helped me. You can see my face. I don't really do a lot of self-care. I do shirts and all that, do clothes and all that, but, well, clothes, yeah, okay, we don't talk about that. But, okay, some in the autism rights movement consider ABA therapy unethical and unhelpful due to a perception that it emphasizes normalization instead of acceptance and its potential for causing harms. Curtailing self-soothing behaviors is potentially classifiable as a form of abuse. Speech and occupational therapy, as well as augmentative and alternative modes of communication and effectively adjunctive therapies. Pharmacological treatments may also be used for the atypical antipsychotics, risperidone and okay, quick note here. Risperidone is what I take. It's my way of medicine. I take that 1 in the morning, one time in the day, like 0.5 milligrams, but that's about it. And then I have ADHD. But yeah. Yeah, but risperidone and aripiprazole have shown to alleviate comorbid irritability through they tend to be associated with sedation and weight gain. Melatonin supplementation has been shown to improve insomnia related to autism. Stimulant therapy may improve mental processing speed when there is comorbid ADHD. See, I have not read anything beforehand. I'm learning stuff as we read. Read. I have speech impediment. Classification. Oh gosh. Okay, classification. Spectrum model. There are DSM-5 2013 and ICD-11 2022 diagnostic manuals were adopted. ASD was found under the diagnostic category pervasive developmental disorder. The previous system relied on a set of closely related and overlapping diagnoses syndrome that's created unclear boundaries between the terms. So for the DSM-5 and ICD-11, a spectrum approach was taken. The new systems is also more restrictive, meaning fewer people qualify for diagnosis. The DSM-5 and ICD use different categorization tools to define the spectrum. DSM-5 uses a level system which ranks how a need support the patient is. Level 1 being the mildest and level 3 being the severest. I have level 3. While the ICD-11 system has two axes, intellectual impairment and language impairment, as these are seen as the most crucial factors. Autism is currently defined as a highly variable neurodevelopmental disorder. I'm gonna get that word. I'm gonna get that word by the end of this entire thing. We're not even halfway. Through the page, and we're already at 11 minutes. Oh wait, no, that's because the screen is a bit squished. So like a quarter of the way there. That's still not good. Okay. Neurodevelopmental disorder. This is a generally thought to cover a broad and deep spectrum, manifesting very differently from one person to another. Some have high support needs, may be non-speaking, and experience development delays. This is more likely with other coexisting diagnoses. Others have relatively low support needs. They may have more typical speech language and intellectual skills, but not atypical social conversation skills. Narrowly focused interest in wordy, pedantic communication. These words are hard. I'm struggling. I know a bit of German, and these words are nowhere close to that. And I don't want to learn these words in German. I couldn't read this in German. I could read ist. Okay, I don't know what currently is. Ist ein. Okay, I can read these words. Ist ein Sarah. I don't know. Okay, we're getting off track. Where was I? Okay, they may still require significant support in some areas of their lives. The spectrum model should not be understood as a continuum running from mild to severe, but instead means that autism can present very differently in each person. How it presents in a person can depend on context and may vary over time. While the DSM and ICD greatly influence each other, there are also differences. For example, Rett syndrome was included in ASD in the DSM-5, but in the ICD-11, it was excluded and placed in the chapter of developmental anomalies. The ICD and DSM change over time, and there has been a collaborative work toward a convergence of the two since 1980. When DSM-3 was published and ICD-9 was current, including more rigorous biological assignment in place of a historical experience and a simplification of the classification system. As of 2023, empirical and theoretical research is leading to a growing consensus among researchers that has established ASD criteria and effective descriptors of autism as a whole, and that alternative research approaches must be encouraged, such as going back to autism prototypes, exploring the new casual models of autism, or developing trans-diagnostic endophenotypes, propose alternatives to the current disorder-focused spectrum model. This deconstruct autism into at least two separate phenomena: a non-pathological spectrum of behavioral traits in the population, and two, the neuropathological burden of rare genetic mutations and vital risk factors potentially leading to a neurodevelopment and psychological disorders governed by an individual's cognitive ability to compensate. ICD. The World Health Organization's International Classification of Diseases 11th revision, ICD-11, was released in June 2018 and came into full effect as of January 2022. It describes ASD as follows. Autism spectrum disorder is characterized by persistent defects in the ability to innate and sustain and reciprocal social interaction and social communication, and by a range of restricted, repetitive, and inflexible patterns of behaviors, interests, or activities that are clearly atypical or excessive for the individual's age and socio-cultural context. The onset of the disorder occurs during the development period, typically in early childhood, but symptoms may not become fully manifested until later. When the social demands exceed limit capacities, defects are sufficiently severe to cause impairment in personal, family, social, and educational occupational, or other important areas of functioning, and are usually a pervasive feature of the individual's functioning, observable in all settings, though they may be according to social, educational, or other contexts. Individuals along the spectrum exhibit a full range of intellectual function and language abilities. I'm just telling everyone right now, we're still not even a quarter of the way. We're actually less than a quarter of the way. We're not even like 1/10 of the way there. It's been 17 minutes. Let me. Oh wait, no. Alright. We're like, okay, that's just like the other stuff underneath it. Never mind. We're good. Alright, let me read the rest of this. ICD 11th, Chapter 6, Section A02. That was the thing I previously read from that section of that. Whatever. ICD 11 was produced by professionals from 55 countries out of the 90 involved, and is mostly widely used reference worldwide. Okay. DSM, the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, text revision. DSM-5-TR, released in 2022, is the current division of the DSM in the predominant mental health diagnostic system used in the United States and Canada, and is often used in Anglophone countries. Its 5th edition, DSM-5, released in May 2013, was the first to define ASD as a single diagnosis, which is still the case in the DSM-5-TR. ASD encompasses previous diagnostics, including the 4 traditional diagnoses of autism: classic autism, Asperger's syndrome, childhood disintegrative disorder, and pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, PDD, NOS, and the range of diagnoses include the word autism. Rather than distinguishing among these diagnoses, the DSM-5 and DSM-5-TR adopt a dimensional approach with one diagnosis category for disorders that fall under the autism spectrum umbrella. Within that category, the DSM-5 and the DSM include a framework that differentiates each person by dimensions and symptom severity, as well as by associated features, i.e. the presence of other disorders or factors that likely contribute to the symptoms, other neurodevelopment of mental disorders, intellectual disability, or language impairment. The symptom domains are A, social communication, and B, restricted repetitive behaviors, and there is the other option of specifying a separate severity, the negative effect of the symptoms on the person for each domain rather than just overall severity. But before DSM-5, the DSM separated social defects and communication defects into two domains. Further, the DSM-5 changed to an manifest to an onset age and the early development period, with a note that symptoms may manifest later when social demands exceed capabilities, rather than the previous more restricted 3 years of age. These changes remain in the DSM-5-TR. Okay, we got this one last thing to read, and it's not that long. Common characteristics. See also outline of autism. Pre-diagnosis. For many autistic people, characteristics first appear during the infancy of childhood and follow a steady course without remission. Different development timelines are described in more detail below. Autistic people may be severely impaired in some respects, but average or superior in others. Clinicians consider assessment for ASD with a patient shows regular difficulties in social interaction or communication, restricted and repetitive behaviors often called stimming, resistance to changes or restricted interests. These features are typically assessed with the following when appropriate: problems in obtaining a sustaining employment or education, difficulties in initiating or sustaining social relationships, connections with mental health or learning disability service, a history of neurodevelopmental conditions including learning disabilities and ADHD or mental health conditions. There are many signs associated with autism. The presentation varies widely. Common signs for autism spectrum disorder: abnormalities in eye contact, little or no babbling as an infant. That's how I was as a kid. I didn't talk. I didn't cry. Not showing interest in indicated objects. Delayed language skills, e.g. have a smaller vocabulary than peers or difficulty expressing themselves in words. Reduced interest in other children or caretakers, possibly with more interest in objects. Difficulty playing with reciprocal games, example peekaboo. Hypo or hypersensitivity to unusual response to the smell, texture, sound, taste, or appearance of things. So resistance to changes in routine. Repetitive, limited, or otherwise unusual usage of toys. Example, lining up toys. Repetition of words or phrases. Repetitive motions or movements, including stemming. Repetition of words or phrases. Echolalia. I want to keep reading. Broader autism phenotype. The broader autism phenotype describes people who may not have ASD, but do have autistic traits such as abnormalities in eye contact and stimming. In 1996, American academic Temple Grandin published Emergence labeled autistic, describing her life experience as an autistic person. That's who I am. It's me. Social and communication skills. I'm just gonna keep reading. I ain't stopping. This will be an hour long, 2 hours long, 3 hours. I'm gonna keep reading till we're done. Until I get bored. But I'm learning a lot. And I don't want to stop. Social and communication skills. According to the medical model, autistic people experience social communications impairments until 2013. Social communication impairments. Until 2013, defects in social function and communication were considered two separate symptom domains. The current social communication of domain criteria for autism diagnosis require people to have defects across three social scales: social emotional reciprocity, nonverbal communication, and developing and sustaining relationships. A defect based view predicts that autistic to autistic interaction would be less effective than autistic to non-autistic interaction, or even non-functional. But recent research has found that autistic to autistic interactions are as effective in informational transfer as interactions between non-autistics are, in that communication breaks down only between autistics and non-autistics. Also, contrary to social cognitive defect imputations, recent 2019 research recorded similar social cognitive performances in autistic and non-autistic adults, with both of them rating autistic individuals less favorable than non-autistic individuals. However, autistic individuals showed more interest in engaging with autistic people than non-autistic people did. And learning of a person's ASD diagnosis did not influence their interest level. Thus, there has been a recent shift to acknowledge that autistic people may simply respond and behave differently than people without ASD. So far, research has identified two controversial features by which autistic people create shared understanding intersubjectively and a generous assumption of common ground that, when understood, led to a rapid rapport, and when not understood, resulted in potentially disruptive utterances and a low demand for coordination that ameliorated many challenges associated with distributive tones. Autistic interest and thus conversational topics seems to be largely driven by an autistic interest in specific topics. Monotropism. Historically, autistic children have said to be delayed in developing a theory of mind, and emphasizing to systemizing theory, has argued that white autistic people have compassion, effective empathy for others with similar presentation of symptoms. They have limited, though not sincerely absent, cognitive empathy. This may present a social nativity lower than the average Intuit perception of the utility of or meaning of body language, social representativity, or social expectations, including the habitus, social cues, and some aspects of sarcasm, which to some degree may also be due to comorbid alexithymia. But recent research has increasingly questioned these findings as the double empathy problem. Theory 2012 argues that there is a lack of mutual understanding and empathy between both non-autistic persons and autistic individuals. As communication is bi-directional, research on communication difficulties has since also begun to study non-autistic behavior, with researcher Catherine Crompton writing in 2020 that non-autistic people struggle to identify autistic mental states, identify autistic facial expression, overstimulate autistic egocentricity, and are less willing to socially interact with autistic people. Thus, although non-autistic people are genuinely characterized as socially skilled, these skills may not be functional or effectively applied. When interacting with autistic people, any previously observed communication defects of autistic people may thus have been constructed through a neurotypical bias in autism's research, which has come to be scrutinized for dehumanization, objectification, and stigmatization. Recent research has proposed that autistics' lack of readability and a neurotypical lack of effort to interpret atypical signals may cause a negative interaction loop, increasing driving both groups apart in two distinct groups with different social interaction styles. Differences in communication began to be noticeable in childhood as many autistic children develop language skills at an uneven pace. Verbal communication may be delayed or never develop nonverbal autism, while reading ability may be present before school-age hyperlexia. Reduced joint attention reduced joint attention seem to distinguish autists from non-autistic infants. Infants may show delayed onset of babbling, unusual gestures, diminished responsiveness, and local patterns that are not synchronized with the caregiver in the second and third years. Autistic children may have less frequent and diverse babbling, consonant words, and words combinations. Their gestures are less often integrated with words. Autistic children are less likely to make requests or share experiences, and more likely to simply repeat others' words. Equally, the CDC estimated in 2015 that 40% of autistic children do not speak at all. Autistic adults' verbal communication skills largely depend on when and how well speech is acquired during childhood. Autistic people displayed atypical nonverbal behaviors or show differences in nonverbal communication. They may make infrequent eye contact even when called by name, or avoid it altogether. This may be due to the high amount of sensory input received when making eye contact. Autistic people often recognize few emotions and their meaning from others' facial expressions, and may not respond with facial expressions expected by their non-autistic peers. Temple Grandin and autistic woman involved in a autistic activism described her inability to understand neurotypical social communication as leaving her feelings like an anthropologist on Mars. Autistic people struggle to understand the social context and subtext of neurotypical conversation or printed situations, and form different conclusions about the context. Autistic people may not control the volume of their voice in different social settings. At least half of autistic children have atypical prosody. What may look like self-involvement or indifference to an autistic people stems from autistic differences in recognizing how people have their own personalities, perspectives, and interests. Most published research focuses on the interpersonal relationship difficulties between autistic people and their non-autistic counterparts, and how to solve them through the through teaching them neurotypical social skills, but new research has also evaluated what autistic people want from friendship, such as a sense of belonging and good mental health. Children with ASD and are more frequently involved in bullying situations than their non-autistic peers, and predominantly experience bullying as victims rather than perpetrators or victim to perpetrators, especially after controlling for comorbid psychopathology, prioritizing dependently and intimacy in friendships during adolescence, coupled with lowered friendship quality often led to increased loneliness in autistic people. As they progress through life, autistic people observe and form a model of social patterns and develop coping mechanisms referred to as masking, which have recently been found to come with psychological cost and a higher risk of suicidality. This is part one. I'm done. I can't read any more today. There's so much more. Well, let me see. Yeah, there's a lot more. Yeah, there's so much more. I'm stopping here. I'll see you guys in a moment once I'm ready to read some more. And I just don't want to run out of storage because I don't want this to take a long time to upload. So I'll see you guys in like a couple hours. Maybe two. Maybe I'll even stream me reading this and you can just watch that. Yeah.